Hi, folks. Thanks for watching my monologue. As you may have heard, there's been a recent run on guns and ammunition. I just wanted to let you know that Guns Etc. is in a 10,200 square foot building which holds a lot of guns. So Guns Etc. is open and has a lot of product. Or you can go to gunsetc.com. That's gunsetc.com. And if you like my monologue, please subscribe to our channel using 960 The Patriot. Welcome back and happy May 12th, 2020. What is the crisis industrial complex? It's something I've been speaking of for some time now, and a few people caught me using it again for the first time for them and asked exactly what it was I meant by that. I take it from a phrase Dwight Eisenhower used in 1961 in his farewell address. He used the phrase the military-industrial complex, and it has been misused and manipulated and taken out of context ever since. It was not the warning a lot on the left think it was, but he did describe it in his speech as having, quote, the potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power, close quote. Now, bear with me as I use his descriptors for the crisis industrial complex. Yes, it has the potential for disastrous rises of misplaced power. He also said the military-industrial complex could, quote, endanger our liberties or democratic processes, close quote. That's as brilliant a warning for the crisis industrial complex that I can think of. He also said, quote, we should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and political machinery of defense with our political and peaceful methods and goals so that security and liberty may prosper together, close quote. He didn't use the word political. I inserted that so as to more clearly spell out the point. But you combine an ardent and appetite-driven left with an ideologically sympathetic medium with a lot of power and perceived credibility, a continually needs sponsors that which continually needs viewers, and whether you are the New York Times Company or Amazon Bezos, Washington Post, or Warner Media, CNN, or NBC Comcast, there's your industry. Now take the DNC and a lot of social media and companies you know well, companies so prevalent now they've become verbs, and you have a real complex. And you know what the crisis is? It's the end of the world as we know it, as the REM song goes. It starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes and aeroplanes. Speed it up a notch, speed, grunt, no strength. The ladder starts to clutter. Or if you want to go a generation earlier, think Barry Maguire and the eve of destruction. How can you not believe we're on the eve of destruction? We did put a Nazi in the White House, didn't we? What did Rachel Maddow tell us on election eve? You didn't wake up from a bad dream. This is your world now. As if 63 million Americans wanted to commit suicide. Hell, we should have been in and out of 5 major assassinations and terrorist acts, if not a Middle Eastern war by now, for taking out Qasem Soleimani. Right? Instead, Iran is busy blowing up its own ships. Did you see that story yesterday? I bet you didn't. Iran killed 19 of its own people in its own military exercises yesterday. And of course, the world only has 12 years to act on global climate change because vast ecosystems are being destroyed before our very eyes. Time magazine will help with that, making the person of the year the 16-year-old who told the United Nations that. The truth is, after 4 years of Hitler in the White House, it's amazing Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Nancy Pelosi are even able to give speeches, much less not be under house arrest. To them, after all, Donald Trump is a dictator tyrannizing our communities. That's what they said and say, after all. Why are they free and still roaming the land? Hell, how are we still here after the population bomb of the 1970s that was predicted to kill hundreds of millions of us? How is there life on Earth after Reagan's re-election? The Democrats ran an ad in 1984 telling us and showing us how kindergarten students would watch the world blow up from missiles Reagan would launch from their playgrounds. How are we alive after the nuclear winter that would come from Reagan's first term? Never mind 2 terms in office. How are there people around who even worked for and with Reagan or remember him because old people couldn't possibly be alive after Paul Ryan's tenure as Speaker of the House? Wasn't he pushing Grandma and Grandpa off cliffs? This, folks, is your crisis industrial complex. Democrats, social media, big corporate media, colleges and universities and Hollywood, always trying to tell us the worst is here or just around the corner. Why? Well, today it required a $3 trillion stimulus plan. Today, it did. That's what Speaker Pelosi announced. That would be 75% of our annual budget, 3 times our annual budget deficit. Of course, it's this sort of thing that requires a Green New Deal, an order of what FDR did during the Depression, except bigger. Do you know the cost of the Green New Deal? Between $50 and $100 trillion. You see, the progressives want power badly. And opposite the spirit of liberty, they are convinced they are right and always right, just as they are convinced we are wrong and always wrong. Well, I apologize. We are not only wrong, we are racists, and we are also wrong about everything. China is no threat. That's what Joe Biden kept saying, just as I guess Russia was no threat when Obama was president, until Republicans finally got a candidate that wanted to stop China more than Russia. Then Russia was such a threat it was impeachable to think they were no threat. Crisis, industrial, complex. Frenzy, panic, lather. Rinse, repeat. Hell, only yesterday, Chuck Schumer was telling us that today would be full of blockbusters because Anthony Fauci would testify to the Senate and do what? Well, to quote Schumer yesterday, quote, President Trump has either muzzled or contradicted what Dr. Fauci and other health experts have recommended to the American people. Tomorrow's hearing is an opportunity for those experts to speak freely, and they must take advantage of it because the country can't afford to hear anything but the full truth, close quote. We all strapped on our seatbelts for that ride today, didn't we? Fauci was going to blast the president. The Democrats would have a field day with it. Well, fizzle. Did I miss that bomb? Or was there never a bomb in the first place? There was no bomb in the first place. There was no population bomb. There was no nuclear winter. Banning flights from China was not racist. Ilhan Omar is not a political prisoner. Anthony Fauci did not testify to a White House out of control or out of its depth, ignoring all the advice of the scientists today either. The president did not collude with Russia. He did not engage in impeachable offenses for conducting foreign policy with our ally and Russia's enemy, Ukraine. And the economy was actually booming until we found out that a really bad virus that especially affects old and unhealthy people was worth putting the healthy into various forms of quarantine and ruining the economy. You see, because it's the Democrats that want to make this an economic issue, not us, not conservatives. How do I know this? Because they had a great economy, not of their doing, and it's an election year. And that's what they know people vote on. What have we been talking about and yet being told we can't talk about, we conservatives? The 70,000 to 150,000 deaths of despair that come from an unprecedented economic shutdown combined with skyrocketing unemployment, combined with months-long social isolation, sometimes with no set end, combined with uncertainty about treatment and prevention strategies. That's a direct quote from the Wellbeing Trust in California. You can look to doctors like Nicole Saphier, who've been saying the same thing. You can look to the op-eds that I've written, Heather McDonald has written, Dennis Prager has spoken about. It's not just the economy to us. It is to them. That's the Democrats' concern. For us, it's the people. Heck, ask yourself, who wants the schools still closed? The left or the right? We want them open. And we're the ones who have been saying how bad they can be. We never wanted them closed. We wanted them reformed. Yes, never closed. The closing is the panic industry and the left. That's their cause. You see, Barry Goldwater was right about what he wrote in The Conscience of a Conservative. It's the left that sees man as merely an economic animal. That's what Goldwater wrote in Chapter 1. It's the liberal who only looks at man's material being. It's the conservative who takes account of the whole man. We are in part economic, in part animal, in part spiritual. It is the left that views man as only economic and material, and thus harnesses society's economic and social forces to fight nature and compel progress. His words, directly from the conscience of a conservative, and still true today. Stop worrying about Schumer. Stop worrying about Pelosi. Stop watching CNN and reading the New York Times for news. Stop worrying. They want you worried. I don't. I don't because I don't know a single mental health expert that thinks decisions born or fueled by fear or panic are ever good decisions. It's not what a free people does. So please take this crisis industrial complex seriously and then rob it of all oxygen by ignoring it. We shall not live in fear. Even Franklin Roosevelt told us that once. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.